Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, we're going to take a fully spoilery look at Chapter 71 of Kaiju number 8. And boy, this chapter was a doozy. So, some quick housekeeping before we get going. By the time this video airs, October 2nd, 2022, the Indiegogo campaign for my book, Humans Are Weird, Let's Work It Out, will be available on Indiegogo. It is up there. You can check out the link below the video to get a copy of the third book in my Humans Are Weird series. And because I will be devoting all of my time and energy to the campaign, I'm afraid that there will be no transcripts this month, even though you will be getting at least two fully fleshed out Sunday videos for Kaiju number 8 analysis. So I'm sorry about the lack of transcript, but I'm teaching, I'm getting this book published. We'll see what's going on. All right, Kaiju number 8, chapter 71. The fact that I enjoyed this chapter so much, the fact that I read every detail and I'm going back to analyze it, is a real testament to Matsumoto's skill. Why do I say that? Because for the most part, in a moderately to well done shonen battle manga, this is not a chapter I would be reading, or at least not reading with a lot of focus. The big battle arc that leads up to the main character's confrontation with the big bad, these always have a hard time holding my confrontation. When there's going to be a bunch of smaller battles with characters that I'm probably not so closely bonded with, I really don't get into it. And this is the opening battle chapter of this arc. We've seen it in 100 different shonen battle mangas. And it's, good guy A goes up against bad guy B. There's a battle, and one of them wins, one of them loses. We move on to the next one. But I am so excited for this. The main reason, obviously, is that we've gotten so attached to each one of these characters. I want to know how Reno's battle goes. I want to know how he deploys weapon number 6. I want to know if Mina's learned anything new. She is probably at the peak of power generation. She can't make that cannon blast any harder, but she has a lot to improve on in mobility. Currently, she's still dependent on the tiger to be her third leg to keep her from just toppling over. And then we have Aiharu, who's going to be supporting Reno. We've got the two that we actually haven't seen. They're a complete dark horse. What's his name? Military guy and business guy. Now, the Saikon of Izumo Tech, that you have the people who make these combat suits. Then you have Kaiju number 8, and you got the little guy that started all of this. Where am I going? When you stack up all of the probabilities, what's his name? The pretty boy Saikon of the Izumo Tech, he's still the most suspicious character as to having had something to do with the creation of that little kaiju that started all of this in the first place. Because Izumo Tech is the company that's been developing the kaiju-related bioweapons, and depending on whether you think Kafka's mind was the one that formed the appearance of Kaiju number 8, the Kaiju number 8 looks a lot like the Defense Force base suit, which come from Izumo Tech. So, those are two characters that are both highly suspicious in their own rights, and we very suspiciously did not see a training arc for them leading up to this battle. They were training just as hard as Reno and Aiharu, but for some reason Matsumoto has chosen not to show us that. So, what's going on with them? I really want to know. Either way, every combatant in this battle holds a place in my heart enough to make me want to see their battle scene just to see how they're doing. And then again, the battles themselves are very interesting. Again, this is just a really, really great chapter. But I've been rambling. Let's focus on what actually happens in chapter 71. One thing that really, really, really interested me was that the kaiju that attacked the wedding wasn't a one-off. There were a bunch of them. So there was Kaiju number 9 did a pretty decent copy-paste for that. And as we're getting a better look at them, more and more they look like a roided out version of Little Guy. They've got the same muscle pattern that Kaiju number 8 has. They've got that same spine ridge down their back. they've got that, and when we get a look at them through Captain Narumi's eyes, that thing on their head isn't armor, it's brains. So they have a fully developed humanesque brain. They've got a massive nerve structure going down their bodies. And then we've got those big soulless eyes. And then Captain Narumi blasts them out of existence. But we've seen nothing in here that contradicts the concept that they're somehow related to the little guy who started all of this. And weapon suit number 1. Poor Narumi, his brain is going to be completely overloaded because we get a close-up look at how this weapon suit works. One of the Defense Force members says the most dangerous life form in this area at this moment is Captain Narumi. And so he's got that battle suit that on the surface looks only mildly different from your standard Defense Force battle suit, except it's got a little more surface area. But then what looked like bolt holes open up, revealing eyes. Cross-shaped eyes, just like Captain Narumi has when he uses the weapon number 1, which is, embedded in his eyeballs. And this gives him, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably an equal number down his back. So he's got at least a dozen eyes looking out. And he's seeing how and this gives him the ability to see all of the mental flow of these kaiju at once. Now, on page 6 and 7, there's a page and a half spread. And I was a bit confused at first. I thought there's these balls of energy that appear in air between Captain Narumi and the kaiju, the roided out little guy kaiju. And at first I thought those represented a sort of mental connection between them, maybe control nodes, how kaiju number 9 was controlling them. But then I realized they were just I think from what I see in the rest of the chapter, those were just the shots from Captain Narumi's guns. Alright, so we have Captain Narumi's battle. Then we pull back for a 10,000 foot view of the battlefield. Now this is interesting. Captain Narumi has only been fighting for minutes at most, probably seconds. And about halfway through the chapter at page 13, his body's just kind of hanging limply where he isn't forcing it to stand up. So that number 1 suit is putting a tremendous strain on his body. I think the jacket actually might be an integrated part of the suit. I don't know. Maybe that's something you can shuck off if it gets too rough. But the kaiju are attacking nationwide. Kaiju number 9 is clearly pressing them. Interestingly enough, he's attacking the Diet building in Tokyo. Now that's basically the congressional building. I don't know why that wouldn't have been evacuated right off, and I don't know that it has any military significance. So why are they still defending it so tough? Maybe everybody hasn't evacuated yet? Because that does seem like an empty governmental building seems like something you could sacrifice pretty easily to protect more important things like power generation stations and whatnot, but who knows. Anyway, that's not my main point about the Diet building. So the Diet building, what I believe is this congressional building, the National Diet building, has been attacked by multiple kaiju with an estimated fortitude of over 7.0. So there's a pretty concentrated force there. And this is the governmental center, the thought processing center of the humans, as it were. And take a look at the kaiju that is attacking the Diet building. It's like some sort of freakish sphinx with a lion's tail and a human's face. But look at those eyes. Notice the shape of the pupils. Now, we know that General Shinomiya understood had a decent understanding of Captain Narumi's powers, and so Director General Shinomiya is also lost all of that information to Kaiju number 9. And here we see a kaiju with at least 2 crucifix-shaped human eyes. It's the same as Captain Narumi has. And I'm going to do a whole video on what that could mean in of itself and why this particular kaiju happens to be attacking a major governmental center, but that's its own video. But yeah, so for this video, suffice it to say that on page 16, there appears to be a kaiju that has some sort of mimicry of Captain Narumi's power. Then we get my favorite part. Now, believe me, there's going to be a whole video on this in of itself. The surprise twist for weapon number 4. Now, back at the beginning, it talked about how Hikari Shinomiya would fly through over the battle like a Valkyrie. I just assumed that was saying that she had incredibly lightweight, powerful movements. Maybe she jumped around a lot, but oh no. So, I've been thinking about this world a lot, as you can tell from the number of videos I've pumped out about the Kaiju number 8 world. And one thing I was thinking about, well, what sort of conventional weapons would be effective against the Kaiju? Obviously, you can drop a nuke on them, but that has consequences. Traditional munitions don't seem to hurt them that badly, and my first thought went, what about a ship-mounted railgun? Kaiju are mobile, so the main problem with railguns is the power source. So a land-mounted power source that you can plug into a massive generator, it is not going to be mobile. And a mobile railgun that you can move around is not going to have enough power to generate enough force to really be of any use. But this is a science fiction world, so what if they did have a mobile railgun? You could either mount them on a ship and then therefore have access to the big nuclear reactors of an aircraft carrier or something, or you could just hand wave a power source strong enough to create a railgun. But the benefits of a railgun is you could launch it up with a fairly long, complex bit of ammunition, pound it into the kaiju, and then you could have like the ammunition open up and pin the kaiju down. Sort of like a grappling gun, railgun. So something like that. Then that way you could immobilize the kaiju and have the defense force move in and work on it and kill it with much less danger to the active officers who are taking out the kaiju. And so I was mulling over how you could do this and what the downsides could be. Railguns have a massive electromagnetic discharge, so if you had, say, one on a large plane, you'd have to shield the plane for that. And I've been playing around with the idea of a railgun this entire time. I didn't mention it because this was just purely headcanon. What kind of weapon could you create to take out these kaiju? So you can imagine how thrilled I was when we get a railgun in chapter 71. But not a railgun that would deliver like a spike that would pin a kaiju. A railgun that would deliver our Kikoru Shinomiya into battle. And so we get to see Kikoru Shinomiya standing there. And I don't know how Matsumoto did this artistically. Maybe it's the ratio of her hips to her waist, maybe it's the angle she's standing at, maybe it's the foreshortening caused by her being at the angle, but on the panel where Kikoru in full weapons number 4 gear is revealed, she genuinely looks like a little girl wearing her mama's clothes. And you can see the power that she's just radiating. She is a warrior going into battle, but I don't think at any point in this series, in the modern day, I'm not talking about the flashbacks, Kikoru has ever looked more vulnerable and childlike than she does in this image. When the series showed Hikari Shinomiya standing there in that battle armor, she looked like a full-grown warrior. With Kikoru standing there, again, she looks like a child wearing her mother's armor. And I don't know story-wise where that's taking us, but I do want to talk about the battle axe. She's got herself a brand new reforged battle axe, and the first most obvious thing is this is much shorter. Now this might simply be designed this way so that it can go through the railgun. It's got to be fired out into open space after all. But this means that instead of using the heft of the handle of the axe as the fulcrum, Kikoru herself is going to have to be the fulcrum, using her own body as a part of the weapon, which all of the captains do with their specialized weapons, of course. But I did find that very interesting that they shortened the axe for her in the upgrade. So, what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Why did Matsumoto make Kokoro look so childlike and so innocent and so vulnerable in her big reveal in her super weapon? What does it mean that the kaiju attacking the Japanese government has the same kind of eyes as Captain Narumi with his Kaiju #1 power? How long can correct Captain Narumi fight in with the weapons suit #1 activated if in just moments he's already sagging like we see him doing in panel 12? And why on earth do those roided out kaiju look so much like the little guy that started all this with Kaiju #8? Tell me what you think about it in the comments below. I love to hear from you. Hit that like and subscribe. And remember, my book, Humans Are Weird. Let's Work It Out. Book 3 in the series of Humans Are Weird. Monty Python meets Star Trek in this collection of short stories on human absurdity. Available on Indiegogo now. Check out the link below the video. Peace out, my wonderful viewers. Humans Are Weird. Let's Work It Out. Available on Indiegogo for the month of October 2022. Monty Python meets Star Trek in this third book of human absurdity. This book joins its two siblings in a trilogy of human madness. You can find the first two books, author-signed first editions, at Indiegogo with book 3, or you can go on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are available to get your copies of the first two books. Humans Are Weird, Let's Work It Out, book 3 in the series, available on Indiegogo, October 2022.